Yeah.
Van Glorious, Vanguard.
Knowledge born.
Yeah.
United Front.
Tell it.
What you want.
To the Knowledge Radio.
We in here. What you got? Dot.
Work hard as a slave to one day be your savior. The wave unwavering. This is a labor of love. Rise with a purpose every day. Invigorated. If we were on TV, we'd be 10 times syndicated. If we waited for validation, a paycheck or accolades, we'd be starved, already lost or ran away. But when you're square solid and you circle too, you don't need a place for silence. The concept is conquered through media, not areas of people activity. A mix that don't lose ethnicity, tightness that don't lose elasticity. Explicitly, this isn't where we give the novice regard. Nah, this is where knowledge is born. Last time that I checked, I'm undefeated. Deliver edicts, can't resist when the gods build and manifest freedom. When lines get crossed, they may push a loss, cause they get handed a check. We kick a can and cancel your cancerous gestures. A prophet vision, precision, the prescription for the sickness is to inoculate your fate with the winning. Arrogant beginnings turn to humble endings. And US with KBA is a win-win. 1K.
I'm B48. Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of the Black Survive or Die series, broadcasting live every Warrior Wednesday here at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time by our 5-star general of Khalid Muhammad Militia, warrior, educator, teacher, and trainer who has sojourned in the hells and smells of North America and always put African people first. Our modern day George Jackson is in the building, General King Samir Shabazz, and we are especially honored and privileged to have the 21st century esteemed scholar, the African motivator and the African disseminator of liberation and African-centered sovereignty, proper propaganda, and straight truth. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream, no euro on the scene. Our esteemed elder and warrior, our living ancestor, Baba, Dr. Mwalimu Baruti. Always an honor and a privilege to see our warrior scholar in the building. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our 5-star general, General King Samir Shabazz. Mike Power.
Power. BD Peace to the gods and earths. Warriors salute to all African warriors who are fighting for the true salvation, sovereignty, and liberation of the Black nation. Well, as you all might know, y'all know I don't really do no current events and all that kind of stuff because most of y'all know what's going on. You talk about it on Facebook all day. But this has to have a mention. When white folks turn up on each other, I want you to listen carefully. When Peckerwoods turn up and over on each other, there's a very serious issue. Now, in case you don't understand, I'm going to make it plain and simple for you. Crackers are doing what every so-called American citizen should have been doing. But I'm not talking about American citizens. Crackers are doing what Africans right here in America should have been doing a long goddamn time ago. Since we first touched the shores of the United States of America, through Jamestown, Virginia, through Penn's Landing, right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, we should have been turning up and turning out. So now, silly Negroes running around with Peckerwoods, supporting Donald Duck, because they don't want Donald to leave office. Until you understand white supremacy, until you understand white rule, you will always be begging at the feet as a lowly, poor class citizen of your enemies. So don't get all excited because crackers are rushing the White House. Just last week, word is my bond. Just last week, I told you, 2021 is going to be hell. I told you these crackers were going to turn up all the way up in 2021. And damn it, the first damn week, white people are storming the White House. I hope they destroy it. I hope they completely annihilate it. I hope they steal every goddamn thing in it. I hope every cracker in it gets bust upside the head with a piece of the damn rock. I care nothing about no White House. I care nothing about no white race. I care nothing about no white suffering. So with that being said, welcome to the Warriors class right here on Do the Knowledge Radio every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. And we have with us the great, great mind that I truly adore. So we're black, and I told you he was coming. So we're going to open up this year with some fire our damn self. So we want to welcome our elder, my general of this day and time, our general of this day and time, Baba Baruti. And before I bring Baba Baruti on to light this class up tonight, I have to bring forth our ode to the flag. Here's to the flag of mine, the red, black, and green. Hopes in the future bright, Africa has seen. Heroes to the red of it. Great nations shall know of it in times to come. Red blood shall flow of it. Historians shall write of it. Great flag of mine. Here's to the black of it. 800 million back of it, whose destiny depends on it. The red, black, and green of it. Oh, flag of mine. Here's to the green of it. Young black men shall dream of it. Face shot and shell for it. Maidens shall sing of it. Waving so high. Here's to the whole of it. Colors bright and pole of it. Pleased is my heart with it, regardless of what is told of it. Thank God for giving it. Great flag of mine. And now I would like to bring on our Jegna for the night. And I'm going to shut my lips and take my notes as a wise student. So starting off our year with a major explosion, I bring before you. So let's give a strong Black Power salute and a BB for Hodie and a death to white supremacy for Baba Baruti. Black Power.
Black Power being asked to come on again. I don't know how many times that I've been on, but each time I have enjoyed myself thoroughly. Again, with this new Gregorian year, we're seeing the truth. It's unfolding right before our eyes. And the saddest part for me, I guess, is that it takes things to happen in many cases for folks to begin to act on what, as you said, we should have been doing. This shouldn't be new. We shouldn't be surprised by it. Well, we definitely shouldn't be surprised by the fact that white folks will kill other white folks when they want power from each other. I mean, we can go back to the dungeons. We can go back to them being in a state of perpetual war. They're fighting over control of the planet. They're fighting over control over us. So the we see them doing that's normal. What used to surprise me is our absorption into it, our submission to it, our believing in this being our country, our land, and us picking sides, hoping that one side will win or the other side will win. Like historically, they haven't every time that they've won whatever it is, be it a military move, be it the feminist movement, be whatever it is. Of course they will, and of course some of us are dumb enough, if you will, to jump on board. But then the result is always the same. You are dismissed. You're automatically dismissed. People get excited about John Brown and his part in the abolitionist movement and his attempt to overthrow anything. When you look at what he was saying, yes, he wanted black folks in there, but in the end, what he was going to create did not involve us in any leadership position.
Absolutely.
We continue to simply be fodder. We continue to be numbers. We continue to be muscle. But they say black men, percent of the population at that time in this country, but we represented 20% of the brothers on the front line, of the people on the front line. So we were brought in to win the Vietnam War for them, which obviously didn't happen. But when we are used, we don't get that being used part. We are still so determined to get Urugu to love us. You know, I see beautiful statements, beautiful memes I've seen for years was you have so many black men today, and in many cases I just say grown black males who are, you know, laying down or kneeling in 3 feet of water talking about their drowning, and all they have to do is stand up.
You know, Baba, it's something you said based on that point. You said in Message to the Warriors, you said those unable or unwilling to judge Europeans and others beforehand, based on the historical record, will continue to be surprised and caught off guard because of their conditioned belief in the humanity of those who are destroying it. So that just
we
basically
believe we are the greatest believers on the planet. Yeah.
So that tied right into what you just said.
No, go ahead.
And you know,
well, to me, because we're I mean, we know each other. We're good. You know, I guess for me,
okay, I can hear you now.
I can hear you clearly. Yes.
All right.
Okay. I guess. Okay. I guess for me, that's the most troubling fact, because when we're in a constant state of reacting, we're not acting. The vast majority. When I say we, I mean, I know that there are a number of us, you know, you are others like us, if you will, who are acting, but the vast majority of us are reacting, and reaction is a function of fear. People say fear and ignorance. I debate on that ignorant part. It's mostly fear. The conditioning that leads you to want to be loved by your destroyers. It's a fear that makes you misinterpret influence for power. So we think that because we can get them to maybe give us some crumb, we have some power. That's not power. That's influence. You still having to beg. And I don't understand why. I do understand why, but I don't understand why we don't get it. It's such a contradiction. It's such a contradiction for you to act in a way that is powerless, but then want everybody to say that you're a man, or to say for everybody to say that you're a woman when you're acting like a child. Okay, it's when is the accountability coming? I concern myself with what the ancestors think every day. They are my judges, or warrior ancestors. So my concern in terms of who's going to judge me is them, and we're supposed to be followers of truth and justice and righteousness and all the rest of this, but we're afraid of other men. We're afraid of people who we claim to be weaker than us, and we spend years arguing about irrelevancies without doing anything. There's nothing wrong with conversation. We need conversation. We should be talking to each other. But talking at the expense of doing the work, that the education piece, we spend so much time talking about how badly educated our children are, that the public school system is doing what it was designed to do and all the rest of this, but we're not creating the schools to educate our children. We're not doing the work that's necessary to do that. We talk about, beat on, and we talk about brothers getting beat by the cops, but we're not doing the work that would make that not happen. Okay, if somebody fears you enough, then there are things that they're not going to do to you. They're not going to try to do to you because they're not stupid, especially people who live by the sword. But we're up here telling people who are trying to live by the sword in terms of defending our community that, they're going to die by it. And, you put down people who are trying to do the good work for us. And we get surprised when stuff happens. Just keep coming back to that point. I remember with Rodney King, and it's the incident itself, which is important to me, not him. He says, I don't understand. But I was teaching college then, and the riots broke out. The rebellion broke out, and the students came and they were upset and they were, mad, and, like 100 some of them in the classroom. They knew me. So I'm sitting there looking at them fussing, and I said, what are you so angry about? Why are you so angry? They looked at me like I was crazy because they knew me. I said, why are you so upset? Why are you acting like something is really crazy here? You don't get upset with stuff that you should expect to happen. You should expect them to do the beating. You should expect the court to somehow find the cops innocent.
Right.
Because that's what they do. There shouldn't be any surprise there. We shouldn't be surprised when one of us gets murdered by the police. We shouldn't be, whether it's a public police or private police, because they're all police. All of them are one people. All of them form one army. It's not like the ones with the blue and the silver badge, et cetera, that's their police, or the neighborhood committee or what have you. That's them. They understand that this is their nation, and they understand that we are their enemy. One of the most beautiful examples for me, for the warriors in training, for the young ones, was with Katrina. And when they went into white folk serious mode, and the black guys tried to get back into the community, the predominantly white communities that they lived in, and what? 2 of them got shot and killed. 1 of them got shot. And everybody's surprised. I'm not surprised at all. This is what they do. They have never stopped doing this. They just put it up. This never stopped. This has never ceased. Mm-hmm. Shot him in the head. Yes. There should be no support here. The problem is the question is, why aren't we getting the lessons? Okay. I used to say, well, it's because, it's not happening. It didn't happen to your child, or it didn't happen to your husband, or it didn't happen to your wife. But it's more than that. It's more than that. And most of the black stuff I see going on now, people all excited. I can talk on the media, we're seeing these movies and all of this stuff about black this and black that. And it's because white folks realized that some of us were waking up and they needed to make sure that that anger was directed in the correct way away from them. So they have us feeding into baloney in the media, which still, you still always got that good Jurugu in there. Mm-hmm. There's still always, it's still always a human thing. It's still directed away from sovereignty, the sovereignty. The goal is still for Europeans to be in charge and us to be under them, where they maintain the sovereignty, they maintain the control. And we have moved so far away from the idea of gaining power for ourselves based upon who we're dealing with. We're still trying to turn them into good guys. We're still trying to make them nice. They're coming into our communities and they're claiming them as their own and they're changing everything. And we're still trying to make them into good guys. We're still trying to make white women, white females innocent. Mm. And the worst, the hand that rocks the cradle. Mm. We is that fear that will move you to do something about what needs to be done. And the children see it.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
How does a warrior, how does a liberator, freedom fighter remove the fear from himself, him or herself?
Well, the first, it doesn't require a lot of reading. We think that in order to become knowledgeable or centered, we got to read 40,000 books. Oh, you got to read and think. An elder from the continent one time told me, and I'm trying to make this short, I'm a slow reader. And I used to be ashamed of that for years. And until I realized that I would read one book, somebody else has read 5 books, but I understand what I've read and they're still fumbling with the understanding. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a ton of books. I'm an advocate of reading, but I'm not an advocate of reading a ton of books. You get 10 solid books, 5 solid books, depending on personality, who you are, how determined, what you can see, what's going on. And you study those books. You study that for information. You study that for guidance. You study that for understanding, so you can see what has been going on. You pick up a copy of Champion of Black Civilization and you struggle your way through it. You're not really that great of a reader. When you get finished with that book or third time, understanding, taking notes, blah, 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 you're gonna see the pattern. You're gonna see the pattern. And you look around, you become an observer. Okay, I was telling a youngster earlier today that there are more proverbs about silence among African proverbs than anything else. And it's not because our ancestors thought it was important to shut up. Our ancestors knew it was important. And thinking requires silence most of the time. You got to stop back and think. You can't be engaged in a conversation to the degree that your complete and total focus is on that conversation and really think about something. And there's nothing wrong with that. They don't work together. They don't work like that. So the reading is important in terms of those people who speak for us, who have lived, and some continue to live, die for us. That's where I'm going for the material. That's if white folks in the city of Atlanta say we support such and such a candidate who is black, then I'm looking probably another direction, completely another direction, because I know if they're supporting it, then it's not for us. Mm-hmm. So in this reading, the individual needs to look for the pattern. If they can understand the pattern, then they have no questions about what's coming next. They don't have to have these great long debates about what's going to happen next. So you knew what was going to happen with this year, not because you sat and read some horoscope for Europeans about what's getting ready to happen. No, you knew because of the patterns that have occurred. We have to believe the words, the knowledge, the love of those people who love us, who work for us, who went hungry for us, okay, who died dirt poor for us, trying to make sure that we understood those patterns. And then we have to find like minds. And we have to have the patience to love out those people who are around us, because we have so many agents, it's not funny. And most of our agents, most of their agents in our community, I would argue, are not getting paid by the state. They're not getting paid by them. They volunteer to service because they understand, like Europeans, that we're the enemy. But we have to find ways to, the one thing that I see in a lot of the people who have served us is that they say, you know, you need to be part of the nation, organize. That's how they've been able. That's how the homos have been able to take over the agenda in our community, because they have been heavily organized for many decades. This isn't new. So we need to come together with like minds. We need to create safe, sacred spaces. And I know for some people, no, we need this great big war, this great big victory, which would be nice, but that's not going to happen right here at this point in time. And if it does, when it's over, what are we going to build? We're going to build what it is that they had, because we don't know us. So, I mean, and that's like really, I mean, to give us a step-by-step, do this, do that, because people are different. So I could tell one person that they need to read, and they understand because of how they study. It might take them 5 years before they're ready to move on to this stage of organizer, versus somebody else might be able to do it in 6 months, and they move on to this stage in organizations. The main part of that for now, for whatever steps are taken, is that this is not something that needs to be broadcast. There are those of us who have no choice. Okay, I can't hide. King Samir, you can't hide. I don't care what you do. You can't hide. I can't hide. So the people who are understand to organize, they need to be doing it way below the radar. Way below the radar. I don't want to know what they're doing. I'm going to assume that they're doing what should be done. And of course, I'm going to recommend, I mean, I write for us, I'm going to recommend Message Warriors. I'm going to recommend read that when you're trying to understand your role and your who you are, and who the enemy is. This is extremely important for us to understand. In Message of the Warrior, I sat and I explained the situation. I explained the grand ideas. I explained the politics of what we need to understand, do. But I didn't give step by step. I might have given, not I have. I've given. Okay, you need to have these skills. You need to be able to do this, that, and that. But I'm not going to tell you how to apply it. Okay, so we need to have. There are lots of different types of blueprints. And people have different interests. People have different skills. So I know brothers who the economy, finances is extremely important, and they're focusing on that for African people. So what they need to build, they still need to build. That core still needs to be there. They need to know history. Okay, they need to build those safe, sacred spaces. They need to know, for example, okay, so we want to rebuild some black wall. We want to, and let those grow and have an international economy that works for us. Let's say that that's the case. Well, before they move anywhere, they need to go and study what happened to the Black Wall Streets that existed before, and they need to understand people who destroyed that. They're still here with us. They have gone nowhere. That mentality is still there. Those people are still there. We are our ancestors. They're their ancestors. So whatever the area may be that we want to specialize in, that we feel most comfortable with in terms of building sovereignty for African people, with that sovereignty being the final goal. Whatever it is area that we're in, then it needs to be framed within a historical understanding of Urugu, and our historical understanding, our heirs that we continue to make, and our historical understanding why the rest of the world And even though I'm not concerned about what the rest of the world think, but the rest of the world sees us as punks. Okay, when you won't defend your children, when brothers won't defend the sisters, when this becomes this all-out war between the brothers and the sisters, when we won't defend each other in the face of destruction, I understand why people are looking at us and wondering what's wrong with. And we want to talk about the glory of who we were, what we built, what we wrote, what people stole from us, that we, for some reason, haven't gotten up the strength again to get back. Okay. On the one hand, but on the other hand, we're not building anything else. We're not the most fundamental, most important institution in the African tradition has always been the family. Always. And it's still the most important, but it's fading away rapidly. But the most important tradition has always been, the most important institution has always been the family. Okay, when I was growing up, say something about my mother. You get your mother is out. It's on. It's on. It's on. And if I didn't do anything, then my brother was going to jump in. And if you talk about your mother, I'll jump on you. I'm learning about brothers, especially young brothers, who use the B word in reference to their mothers. I can't, but in terms of our tradition, that is us. So in order to correct that, one of the things that we need to do, those who have, who are military minded, and all of us should be military minded, but those of us who are military minded, then they organize men in the community to do what they should be doing relative to the security of the community. Period. I don't see these things as different. That's the part that's frustrating to me. Is I don't see these things as complicated. I don't see protection of a community as something that's all that difficult. I don't see anything that we want to do as being anywhere near impossible, because we've demonstrated time and time again whatever we wanted to do got done. So I don't see this as difficult. I see a punk mentality. I see a weakening of backbones. I see a fear of death. That's a slave mentality. Okay, like all the time say, well, the slave is going to say, well, take my children, take my wife, take the car, take the house, whatever, let me live. That's a slave mentality. So in order for us to live, us individuals, in order for us, we're allowing the community to die. We're allowing the community to be murdered. We're allowing people to come through. Unfathomable to me. A black person, a black man walking, a black boy in a white neighborhood. Everybody's on the phone. Cops are going to come. Everybody's on the phone. They know that you have no business in their neighborhood, and they're going to enforce that, even though we're supposed to be free to walk. We know the truth. A white boy walks on out to find out if he's hungry. We're going out to find out if we can help him give directions. We're going out to find out if he can be helped. Is he lost? Are you lost? Are you looking? Here, you want my daughter? What are you here for? Because we have been so broken and as the norm. That is as this is the way we're supposed to do. And a man who decides he wants to stand up and defend his home, he's ridiculed by those who look like him. This is a sad of affairs. This that's going on in DC now, this to some young black males should be opening their eyes, because white folks will kill for what they want. And I know we want to go discussion of that, but white folks will do whatever they need to do to feed their children in the way they want them fed, to control their streets in the way that they want them controlled. They will do whatever is necessary. History bears witness to that. But we're going to stand around and picket. Okay? And there's wrong with protests for alerting people as to what the problem is, but the protest can't be the all in all. The protest can't be the end.
Right, right.
And why do we say that? We protest and we protest and we protest and we protest and we protest, and the conditions remain the because they identify those who lead or responsible for the protest, and they destroy them. So then you really end up with a bunch of sheep. I really, and I know this isn't about me or my book, but I wrote Message to the Warriors for a reason. I wrote it for a reason. I wrote it for those clear of where we're trying to go, or don't know that, or my room would say, being warred upon. So in that set of instructions, I'm going to tell them, you need to read and reread the section that's dealing with what sovereignty is. What are you fighting for? Mm-hmm. What are we fighting for? I'm just fighting for my block. I'm just for, my wife, my daughter, her husband, their grandchildren. I'm fighting for African people to gain so much power on this planet that no one would dare touch my wife, that no one would dare touch one of my grandchildren, because they know what would happen to their entire lineage. That's sovereignty. Sovereignty isn't, of course it involves land, but sovereignty is making people understand, okay, please step over here. I'll make you understand clearly. And when you take this back home, everybody who you know is going to understand the message clearly. Nobody who fears African people. Who fears African people? So you example, students, sometimes they want to balk at that. And I say, okay, well, any European nation can come from Africa and attack. In many cases, they'll be left to fend for themselves. Ghana sent its military into Europe to attack Germany, and see what every single solitary European country there does, including the United States and Canada. See what happens. We're not, who fears us? And they say, well, you're inciting violence and blah blah blah. Well, good. Maybe I am. I don't know. But
incite some more.
The understanding that we have to get to a point where we have to reach where the fear is real. These folks are crazy enough now. I mean, I see videos with white mouthing off. Worse, you see white boys mouthing off in the north. In the south, it was kind of different. And I have family in both places, so I know the difference. It's really different also. But it's like you're seeing white boys in places where before they didn't dare. Mouthing off at brothers, getting beat down, of course, but mouthing off at brothers, thinking that we are so weak that they are really coming to believe what they see of us in the media. Right. Really believe that they're dealing with some punks. Get super surprised. Reversed, or we could just, quit. Stop fighting. Let them just come in and be the men and be the women on the planet. And we really officially follow them. I walk through the store and I drive down the street here in particular West End, Atlanta, and I look in the eyes of men and I see broke off. I see men that can't even look at you. Because we know men. When we see men, we know men. The brothers who are just trying to live, just trying to survive. You can't do that. It's like you're just sort of counting time until you die. hoping that you live long enough to maybe enjoy something in life. We are people of 7 generations, where everything that we do now is supposed to be based on its impact 7 generations down the road. I'm doing now, I'm not doing for any. I'm not doing my daughter or my grandchildren, for my grandchildren's 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 grandchildren. That's the pattern.
Because, right, that's deep because most of us don't even think that far. We don't even dream that far or vision that far.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. When you've been reduced, and this require a lecture on the socialization of Africans into a state of extreme individualism. Spoilage was a part of that. Other stuff was a part of that. But we have been reduced from our communal mentality, and it's more the communal mentality. We look at it as just a way of interacting people. No, it's a mentality. But we have been reduced from that communalism, which Europeans have turned away from because, you're walking around with a robot mind. You're part of the board. You're a beehive and you don't do any thinking. Only the queen bee does the thinking. We have run away from that to an extreme individualism, which requires us to not work together, which requires us to hate anything resembles, which requires us to get as far as possible from these things, to not see the sister or the brother standing at the bus stop or in the store getting accosted by whoever as family. Not just talk about, I'm going to be the hero, I'm going to run over. No, that's family. I respond differently. Put your hands on me. I respond differently than I do if it's even a sister over there. Okay, and I'm going to respond to my sisters much more different than anybody else's. I am my sister's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. Individualism has knocked all of that out of us. The only person I'm concerned about is me. Now, I will have a lot of friends or pseudo friends because everything within individualism is surface. You can't get but so close to somebody if you are an extreme individualist.
So with that, Baba, you
because
said
extreme individualism requires you to think that everybody is yes.
Right. In the chapter nationalism, you said that individual first propaganda of Europeans is promoted so that we will wrongly believe that in society, the individual is considered more important than nationhood.
Absolutely. And you can compound that. What makes that even worse is that we think that this is our nation. Yeah, we already think that we're already covered by this. Everything is good. We're all Americans, even though we refuse to see major differences everywhere. People can't see beyond them. So even if they are followed around in a hair shop, or they're cheated in a Kroger or Publix or Safeway or whatever, they don't understand that this is an people, if we want to call you Urugu that, of people who see us as to be exploited, to be missed. So it's like the car dealership, as you said, the car dealership in Sacramento who cheats the black man and the black woman there is not in conversation with the car dealership here in Atlanta who treats black men and black women consistently in terms of the interest rates on what the car they're getting, the price of the car. They're not having a conversation. All car dealerships in this country, including some by us, because many of them are under the control of Negroes. We can't get past buy black to understand the politics of the black person who we're buying from. But they're not having these conversations. We should cheat black folks. Yeah, we should follow them around the store like they're thieves. They're not having this conversation. They know because they're thinking the same thing. They are a nation, and a nation operates within a culture. What are what say? Culture is a defense mechanism. European culture is a defense mechanism against us. And when we walk around within the culture, we operate against us. Amos Wilson talked about that. We operate against us. So the as long as we're individuals, it's a number of ways to look at this. When you operate as individuals, it's easier to you. It's easier to stop you from working against them. One of the things that you find at our school and other schools as well, but I've seen it at a number of our schools, where students have an issue and it's something that's working against them, as long as they continue to go to the school's administration as individuals to complain, nothing gets done. Unless daddy's somebody or mommy's some Negro, Negroette. Nothing gets done. But when those students come together collectively, the majority, and they take that to the administration, suddenly stuff gets changed. Because now you have a fear factor. Administration is not going to fear one person. Europeans technically don't fear us. But then one of us, I mean, you're like a joke. You don't even have anybody behind you. You don't have a community behind you. Only person you are is you, and we, rapidly deal with you easily. So that extreme individualism is one of the worst things that could happen to us. Aping Europeans is the worst thing that could happen to us. And becoming extreme individualists is part of that worstness, if you will. Europeans can be extreme individualists because they have on the bomb button. All they got to do is get on in 911. They have their own personal armies. Okay. White female gets on the phone, calls a cop. Here comes 4 or 5 cars. So she's got her protection. We can't do that. We might end up getting killed from calling the cops, which is too many examples of that.
Right.
So that individualism, it works against us, much more than it works against them, because we have no support. There are, some of us have some support. The base is clear, and they know to act accordingly. So there are people who you could call, there are people who I could call, and in a few minutes, there's going to be somebody there. And that number is going to continue to increase until whatever the problem is that I have or you have is resolved. They're going to continue to come. But if I was an extreme individualist, then my goal, not just to arm myself and maybe know how to shoot off a few rounds, but I don't have an organization of brothers and sisters where if they have an issue, they know how to contact me and we immediately show up. Or if I have an issue and I know how to they immediately show up. We don't have it. Extreme individualism works against thinking in those terms. Because in the Western society, for lost souls and Negroes, we're free. We're defended by the state. All we got to do is call, and they will come. What happened to that guy over there when he called cop? That's him. He must have caused it himself. We don't understand that we are the enemy of the state. We still think that we're friends. We don't understand that we collect as people on this planet are enemy of the state. There's so much evidence of that we don't want to look at. We don't want to hear. We don't want to feel because it's too tragic. We're trying to run away, get in Urugu's hands. There was Runoko Rashidi said something a while back, and he's a world traveler. Might not know all his politics, but there's some interesting things there. He said everywhere he's been on the planet, and I don't know anybody in the media who has traveled as much as he is. And when he travels, he's looked at us. Again, politics aside. he said, everywhere he's gone on this planet, everywhere he's found black folks, we're at the bottom of society. That can't be accidental. That can't possibly be accidental. And history found out that it's not accidental, and it is still going on. And we know that it's going on back here, even those of us who don't want to be us. That's why we're fighting hard to get within that city of privilege, as Randall Robinson said. We're trying to get into that city of privilege so we can be safe. We're not worried about black folks. We're trying to save our own slave behinds. And that extreme individualism puts us in that position. We are what a word that I will use sometimes, and I don't necessarily think that people understand it because the first definition in Webster doesn't give that definition. But we are vanquished. Most of us are vanquished. We believe that there was a war between African people and European people, that war is over. We believe that we lost, and we believe that we lost rightfully. We believe this. So we believe that we should be serving them. Now we're supposed to be fighting to get, equal basis. We're trying to, move up in their world. We're trying to follow models that existed in the old world, in the old European world. But we believe they're lost. So people like you, King Samir, you're a fool because you won't let go of our vanquishment. You're fighting it with all your might to them through their eyes, and they know near you because their vanquishedness tells them that to be near someone who doesn't accept that we've lost is dangerous for them. Is dangerous for them because they know Urugu back here. They know Urugu will kill for nothing. We're near when they come after you. Not that they haven't already come after you on a number of occasions, which they don't know. Okay. But they know to stay away from you. They know to stay away from anything that will make them question Urugu. That's a slave. That's part of the slave mentality. Slaves don't question things. Right. Now they operate within a bureaucracy, work for federal government, and be upset because this little racist act occurred and this little racist act occurred, and they can fight when the whole thing is racist. But they know better than to question Urugu's logic. They know better than to question Urugu's rule. They know better than to be associated in any way, shape, form, or fashion with anybody who has an issue with you. They know better than to do that. Nobody has to tell them. Okay, if it's not on Oprah's list of books, if it's not on the New York Times bestseller, you better not be reading it. Or if you're reading it, you better hide what you're reading. If you're acting, you better hide what you're acting. You better not let anybody know. And you better assume that when the police are doing something, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Well, they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're correct in doing what they're doing. Right. Our fear is enormous. So to get to that second point, not only is there the need for these safe, secure areas, which we have to, in terms of being made safe, secure spaces, but there has to be practice. So any situation that arises where there's an opportunity to learn from confrontation, then it has to be approached. Just like going to the range, you go to the range, the more you go to the range, the more accurate you become. The more you go to the range, the more accurate you become. So the more you are engaged in situations, and they will come up, where you as a group who are working together, understand each other, can engage that successfully, then the more you move in the direction of what you asked me about. Because you absolutely don't know how people are going to act until, something really comes down. I've seen fights when I was young where this guy with his boys came and approached this other guy with his boys, and they getting ready to fight. And the other guy, his boys are going to jump in too. And you say, yeah, well, and yeah, let's go. And you look out and they're gone. Okay, you absolutely do not know if all those lessons are going to work, if they're going to pan out, unless some work is being done together. In the same way, you know, with your personal, you don't know if the lessons are going to be effective until something happens. You don't know. I mean, you know what to do in a burning house or burning building. You know what they tell you to do. Unless you've been in that situation, you don't know what you're going to do. You hope that you'll do the right thing, but you don't know. So things have to be worked. Which, of course, to come back, and I know there's a message to the warriors, but that's one of the things that I talk about in there in terms of practice. Every African adult, every African child should have some form of martial arts under their belt. Every African child should have some weapon that they are studying. Okay, of course they can't walk around with a gun, but you ought to be able to throw a rock good. You ought to be able to wield. You ought to be able to do something with a stick.
Right.
You know, pocket knife, you need to know how to use that thing.
Even your G.I. Joe.
Acting like we're warriors, but there's no war. Even your G.I. Joe. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is practice time. This is practice time. Weidman, John Edgar Weidman. He wrote a number of short stories in this one book, and one of the short stories, there was this black man who was sitting in, I guess, a recliner reading a newspaper, and in that neighborhood there was a lot of gunfire at night, and the little boy walked up to his father, and he said, you know, Dad, why are we doing that? Why are, you know, black men shooting in there or whatever? And he said, they're practicing. And what he meant right then and there, of course we shouldn't be shooting each other, but we need to be practicing for whatever threat there may be. We're not, and we have people around who are begging people to come from them, who have given up, if you will, not necessarily their job or whatever, but they've given up their playtime to educate us, to teach us martial arts, to teach us how to use weaponry, et cetera, and it's known, and we don't go and make use of the gifts that they have to offer. I see it all over the place. I know quite a few brothers who do this. There's a brother here in Atlanta, and he offered I guess it was about a 2-month course once a week, specifically for sisters. And I was pushing him to do it, even though he had been doing it a long time. It just wasn't profitable for him. He couldn't survive just doing that. So he, as you will, finally agreed. He decided to do this course of survival defense for sisters. And I'm all excited, and I'm posting this right. And on the day, I think that there were maybe 8 sisters. The third class, there were 2. And he's doing this. He knows what he's doing. He's been teaching this since I've known him. I've known him for nearly 30 years. And he knows what he's doing. He doesn't just teach weaponry and all the rest of it. He teaches street logic. And it was like, this is too much to, you know, take this 5, 6, 7, 8 week course so that you're to survive. I'm hearing people online. I'm seeing people online all day today. If you don't have a gun, you go buy one. That's like what should have been being done at the latest 20, 30, 40 years ago. Now you're paying these exorbitant prices for weapons. You paying these ridiculous prices for shells, ammo, ridiculous prices. And, you know, it's like if they break into your house tonight and you just got the weapon, then you're probably going to be afraid to use it. In fact, the study showed that most of the people who get killed in their homes doing home invasions and stuff like that. They get killed with their own gun because they bring out their own gun, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to handle the situation. Our sisters are the least prepared for martial. They used to be prepared. They broke us from that, just like they broke us from our proverb, just like they broke us from our spirituality until they could turn it into something else. Brothers who know should be finding sisters who don't know or who want to learn more and teaching them everything they know. Everything that they know. Because these sisters are going to be the ones who are supposed to be protecting the children. They're supposed to be the closest to the children. Men don't have the ability to breastfeed, so the women need to be close to the children. But women at the same time, they need to be taken. Our women need to be taken, because the white women, they're on it. They're ready to kill. White children, they're ready to kill. The gun competitions for children, you go, all these white children out there running the course, shooting everything, pulling up, loading everything, training, heavy training, heavy training. The children.
Heavy training. That's right.
Heavy training. And our children are trying to figure out how to play a game, how to get to the next level in this game. Pretend to somebody. You know, when there's a war on, there are no civilians.
Right.
there are no civilians. If you know how to shoot, then your spouse needs to know how to shoot a gun, then your children know how to shoot a gun. And you can tell their age when they are ready. And of course, you're standing right there, so you know. But we want to talk and laugh and clown and issue threats against our own. Talk about how bad, mean black women are, how competent, unloving black men are. Well, then we need to be healing each other, healing ourselves, healing each other, getting the training that we need to do. Or us as individuals are going to be gone soon. You know, I'm not can't see into the future. That's the purpose of studying history and story, so you can see patterns, so you can speak about trajectories, where things are going. And where we're going right now is not good. It's not a good place. They want to say, well, don't talk about past, negative about the future, blah, blah, blah. We're supposed to sit here and lie, or everything is going to be all right as soon as, 20 gets here and blah, blah, everything's going to be fine. Folks are going to start to love us, and it's going to be the lamb. Well, the lamb sleeping with the lion because the lion's waiting, just holding on to that lamb for dinner later.
That's right.
But we're in a very bad place. Not just a bad place. We're in a very, very bad place. And we can emotionally feel it when we walk out of the house and we hear a noise that's strange, because our stress level is extremely high. It's extremely high. And it's high because even if it's subconscious back here, we know. We know. So we should be prepared for that. That's going to require a little study of history. That's going to require a little sacrifice. But if we don't do it, then we don't have, when the tanks come rolling down the street, as they say, we don't have business complaining. We don't have business doing anything. We need to just look down, make sure we the best dress that we can be on that day, and just go on and get into those trucks. Because they're coming. They're coming. They're turning these cities, and now I'm going to sound like conspiracy theorists, right? They're coming. They're turning these cities into forts. People think they just want this neighborhood or just want that neighborhood. No, they want the cities. Those walls that they're putting up around the interstates in the cities, that's not to keep the noise from the people who live there, the residences. That's to keep you from being able to come off of the highway. We're not using our common sense. We're not using our historical knowledge. And they are coming. They are claiming their cities. They're turning them into forts in the same way that when they felt that they were attacked by the Indians, they circled their wagons. Now they're circling their cities. And you are being removed. And then they're going to cut resources just like they did. What was that in outside of Chicago? I can't think of the name of the town right now. they quickly built this town outside of Chicago. Any of y'all need to tell me the name of that place. They built this city, small city outside of Chicago, new houses. They threw them up so you know they weren't worth anything, and they advertised for folks. And of course, the prices of black folks come. So many of us ran there, and then they led us to incorporate it so that all of the tax dollars, people there, the cities run on tax dollars. So that town, it's going to come to me in a second, that town, all of the services that were part of that town were supposed to be coming back, taxes of the people there. The interesting thing about it, by the time we left Chicago, which was about maybe 8-10 years later, they had one police officer for this entire community, large community. They had a volunteer firefighter, one fire truck. Everything was falling apart. The same thing that they're doing now with this regentrification. That's part of the process. And I've with that issue, regentrification thing, in the essay titled Uprooted Again in my book Clarity. Because I'm right in the middle of it here in Atlanta. I'm right smack in the middle. And I've seen it from its beginnings, at least in terms of what they were doing. It's been on paper for many decades. But I've seen them actually doing this because we've been here for like 30 years. So I've seen the whole process and my eyes were wide open. So I wasn't missing stuff. But this is all part of this is just that white folks now want to save some money instead of having from the suburbs to their jobs downtown. That's not all of it. This process really began when we began to wake up globally. And they start saying, we're in trouble. And Urugu always bases his actions on fear. On his fear of what's going to happen, on his fear of genetic annihilation, Chris Wilson. His fear, it bases its actions, its behavior on fear. And when this awakening began in our community, they began to institute the plans for gentrification. Everywhere there was a significant number of us. Everywhere where there were a number of us where we could do serious damage in their minds, they began to institute this gentrification process. And it's followed the same pattern everywhere. It's followed the same pattern in Harlem as it has in Chicago, as it has in DC, as it has in Atlanta, as it has in Houston, everywhere we are. This regentrification has followed the same pattern. And these folks don't need to have conversations with each other. They know exactly what they need to do to remove us as a threat and to build up the fortresses that they need for what they see is coming. It's sad to me how we will follow them everywhere, except when it comes to defending ourselves or building our own community. So we studied what they were majoring in college, so we put our children in those same majors, but we didn't pay any attention to the weaponry magazines, Gun and Ammo, American Rifleman, Fortune. We didn't pay any attention to those magazines. We didn't pay any attention to them on shelves in the grocery stores. We didn't look at the pictures. We didn't see in those magazines, you had pictures of European women and European children. I came across one. I had like 15 of them. I brought them to class one day at Morehouse, and I'm showing these to the students, and they're getting it to them. And I said, out of all these magazines that I randomly pulled off of my shelves, there's only one picture where there's a black person, and this guy was extreme. Like my grandfather got with that. I'm not into that. He's standing in the back where you can only see his head in between two shoulders, and he's holding up a 9. And the clip is not in the gun, and the gun is open. Every other gun had clips in it. Every other gun was closed. His was the only one. He's in the back. White folks knew exactly what they were looking at. They talked to each other. They talk to each other through these movies. They talk to each other through these television shows. Go and watch for entertainment. They go and watch for lessons. They go and watch for.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so it's that individualism, that fear factor. It keeps us from even considering the possibility that they are a threat, and we are so. I guess this is my complaint time. We're so disarmed by the smile of enemies, and they have learned that so very well. Wilson talked about that. This guy named Ivan Light in wow, what was the name of that book? I read it like 40 years ago. Ivan Light, some kind of enclave communities where the Asians, the Koreans in New York, they were getting into trouble with black customers. And store owners were brought by the Korean community. They were brought into classes taught by them to teach them how to treat black customers. This is not fabricated. They were taught how to treat black customers. And the main lesson was you smile. You smile. Okay, somebody's following you around the store and you can feel them following you. Maybe you can see them follow you and you get upset and you turn around and then they smile and we're completely and totally disarmed. We now have a new friend. Because people have studied us. They know what works, and we beat to such a level of menticide that we're looking for love from anybody who has power.
Just pat us on the head.
Pat us on the head. That's what you, wow, that's interesting. That's what you do to dogs, right? Just come and pat them on the head and they're good. You can kick a dog. You can throw them. You can treat the dog whatever you want to. And then he'll come
pat him on the head and he'll love you to death.
It's done. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. Bring him a bone, bring him a scrap, and he's good.
That's right.
He's good.
Yep.
So I really strongly suggest that the Message to the Warriors book was written. It was written at the request of someone who I respected. And they said the information that you are giving out needs to go to the warriors. It needs to go to some of the younger folks, teens, young adults. But the way that with all of the end notes, and sometimes the sentences can get a little dense in what I write. I need to write a book that's to warriors that they can understand, that's plain. I said, okay, for that. So that means no end notes. That means to remove as many large words that I'm not defining for us out of this as I'm writing it. So this book was written specifically for our warriors. How we need to treat each other, what we need to train in, how we need to think about where we're trying to go, how we need to understand Yurugu, period. Some rules, some guidelines as to how we behave. You can't call yourself a warrior and say, I have a friend who's a Yurugu. You're not a warrior. You're not at war. You don't have friends with enemies.
That's right.
Now, that individual is continuously coming to give you information. That still doesn't mean you have to be that person's friend. Then you can take that information and you can use it. But then again, since that individual knows what they are, in probability, some of the information may not be working to your advantage. We need to be in training. We need to be in learning mode. Okay, every night. One of the requirements of students here at Akoben, every week they had to find one, and I would list the areas that they had to study: how to start a fire from scratch, how to build a shelter that was rainproof, how to sharpen a knife, how to make a knife. Find videos, at least one video online every week based upon these titles, these questions that I gave. And they had to watch the video and they had to summarize it, briefly summarize it. But I wasn't so concerned. For me, if they sat and watched that, now it's in there. They may not have it completely right, but now the idea is in there versus the idea is never in there.
Right.
We had a brother come who taught, this was years ago, and I lost track of him. We had a brother come here, and as part of their survival training, he taught them how to hotwire a car. You never know what situation you're in. Okay, and it was my car, so there was no illegal thing going on. So now, even though some of them are not going to remember, or maybe not, but some of them now they have a piece of knowledge. That's survival information. And before it's not going to be this peaceful transition where they built their forts and then we sit at the table and we negotiate and they give up half of their fort to us and we just peacefully move in and everything is fine. That's not how revolution occurs. Revolution will not be televised. It's not a conversation, as some of us seem to think that it is. Revolution is not a conversation. Now, a conversation may fuel a revolution, but the revolution is not the conversation. And we have to understand why we're studying these things. Jacob Carruthers was not happy with how, when we talked about revolution, we were always talking about some revolutionary from Latin America, or some revolutionary from Asia, or some revolutionary in Russia, or some revolutionary anywhere but Africa.
But Africa, that's right.
When we're studying revolutionaries, and we need to go to us. If it was done by them as well. Or should I say it was done by them and other folks did it as well. We need to study our own of revolution.
That's right.
That's very serious. We've been even the quote unquote many of the quote revolutionaries among us, we still are looking to other people for guidance. When we have all the guidance that we need, sometimes it's just common sense, and we need to bear in mind also when we're looking at these revolutions of these other people, that these were people who recognize, or a class who recognize that they're being oppressed and exploited and made to be less than what they were. So when these guerrillas went and did their thing, when they came running back, then you had a collection of people who would hide them, who would feed them, who would even supply them with artillery, who would take care of their families, who wouldn't tell. You have to understand that now you decide you want to become a guerrilla in America, do some damage and come back. Somebody's calling the CIA. Somebody's calling the FBI. Somebody's calling the people who you're trying to save us from. Which, of course, there's other things that are talked about here. We need a central intelligence gathering agency that we can trust. We're getting our information from other people. Most of these people don't like us. And those that do, in many cases, they're pretending, or they're as Wilson would say, they're salving their own wounded egos. It's got nothing to do with us. If the European who we're dealing with, or you're dealing with, understood what menticide has done to us, they wouldn't want to be our friend, because they know that we would see them in a particular way, and they wouldn't want to be that way if they were going to be a friend. So they would move away from you if they understood. But that works to their advantage. We're like I said, we're going to find out, can I show you the way? Can I help you to get someplace? Or where are you going? You lost, son? You want my daughter? So I highly recommend that warriors read this book. It isn't something telling you what to do. It's just telling you what I think is giving you guidelines. So I have a discussion in there about a warrior's appearance, and you say, what's that got to do with war? Well, I'm not going to tell you how to dress, but I do know have my pants pulled all the way up, I can run a lot faster than somebody who has them halfway down there behind. I know that it's easier for me to get to something in my pocket if my pants are all the way up than if they're down. I know that I should have on some kind of a top, and they ain't too tight, and they ain't too tight. That also, because you can't pull anything out of a pocket.
That's right.
So tight, you can't breathe.
You ain't even getting your hands in there.
But you all you get your hands in there. I talked about, in terms of that, on you should be a weapon. You should have a series of weapons on you. I know it's getting kind of specific, but you should have a series of weapons on you. I don't step out of my door. I don't care if I'm going to the raised beds. I don't step out my door without a weapon. If I'm going to take the mail in the mailbox that's right beside the front door, I'm not opening that door without some weapon. You go, and there might be situations where there are certain weapons that you can't have. And there's a sister online who has she does a lot of demonstrations of how sisters can conceal things under skirts and in their tops in ways that you wouldn't imagine, where they're not seen. We think that if you got a t-shirt, whatever it fits, and pants, you can't hide. Yes, you can hide. But I mean, the earrings that you wear, those can be weapons. You got glasses. Well, this temple right here, snap it off. You got something to stab with. But if you are warriors, then you need to be more cognizant. You need to be more aware of what you bring with you that is or can be turned into a weapon. A hardback book, you rip off the cover of the back of that book, it can do some damage. It can do some damage.
Right to the throat.
And in that respect, yeah, absolutely. End of discussion. I'm recommend something else that I have written, and that was the next to last book that I wrote, and it's called Common Sense Security. I think some people are afraid of that, or they think that they know everything already, or what have you. Most of the things that I learned as a child just by watching the men around me and seeing how houses were arranged, etc., that information has not been passed on. There is a way to look at security. You don't have to walk around with a bat in your hand and a rifle in the other in your home, but you know that it's secure because you have taken certain precautions and you know what to look and listen for. You know how to move. That whole book is about things that can be easily done that will significantly increase the security of your person, the people who you are with, your car, your home. And again, if you recognize that we're at war beyond just the threats of crazy people out on the street, but if you recognize that we're at war, then you should be practicing the art of securing your space. That may be the only space that you got. You got up a plan, and you got a person in that neighborhood, or 4 blocks in direction, somebody in 3 blocks in that direction, and you know that if whatever breaks out in your street, you have a possibility of running there. Well, you might not be able to get there. You might have to stay in your home. Read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. Read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. That was required reading in a number of my classes at Morehouse. Read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. And that's a fictional account of what could happen, but it should make you think harder about how to protect yourself. Because in the novel, the greatest weapon that people had against you was something that was available to everybody. And that weapon, whatever the enemy's weapon is, teaches us what kind of defense we need to have. What they've been known to do, that should teach us what kind of defenses we need to have. I love how we used to think in these terms. And because we think that we're now in the company of friends, we've forgotten about it. There were towns where the Klan would come in and raise hell. And even though we did shoot back, some we weren't prepared or what have you. But our ancestors had ways of getting from one house to the next house without being seen from the street. They had ways of hiding the children that we don't imagine, and we have the ability. It's easy work. It's easy thinking. It becomes second nature so easily, and then you can move on to more sophisticated stuff. We don't have the basics down pat. Most of us don't have the basics down pat in terms of security. We see a gun, we get excited. We see a rifle, we get it, but we don't have the basics. And those things are important because we know you have to speak in the language that your enemy understands. But there are many other things that you need to be doing and can be doing that will prepare you for protection in your home, in your car, when you're out, when you're walking down the street, whatever it is that you're doing, so that you don't have to have that fear. And people say, we're talking about it so much that really, when you know how to protect yourself, then your fear level, stress level drops because you're prepared. The people who are afraid are the people who are not prepared. I'm not afraid. That doesn't mean nothing can happen to me, but I'm not afraid because I'm prepared for whatever may happen. My wife is prepared for whatever may happen. So that first step, that reading, that study, it needs to also include preparation, because we can't wait for. You can't wait to read, spend 5-10 months reading, or 6 or 7 years. You wait for you to get finished with your reading to begin preparing to protect yourself and your family, or to be ready to handle whatever needs to be handled on the street relative to family, whether it is blood family or not. We are family. Yeah, so even though I haven't said it, and let me show the cover. This is common security. You need to read Common Security. It's a quick read. Paragraphs are maybe 1-2 pages long. And it, well, I guess I can talk about it a little bit. And I do a lecture. I'm going to be doing that lecture again in the spring on common sense security. We have a men's quarterly meeting here, which is lead us to February. But we have a men's quarterly meeting. So, brother, everybody doesn't come. Everybody doesn't need to be here. Some people have other things to do. So I'm not pressed. As long as they're doing the work, I don't care whether they're here or not, as long as they're doing the work. But I did a lecture, Common Sense Security. I went through, there are 51 chapters in the book. I went through the information in maybe 12 or 13 of them. And the brothers were listening. There were maybe 20 brothers there. And the brothers were listening, and we went to the Q&A period. And the first thing that came up was from an elder brother about my age. And he said, sisters need to have this course. And I really hadn't thought about it because the men only, just like the Iniyah Sister Circle, is for sisters only. So I'm listening it to the sisters, even though I assumed that the brothers knew probably more of this material than the sisters did because of the upbringing of a boy in our community in many ways. What he said was, this needs to be and the brothers were chiming in. Yeah, the sisters need to hear it. And it wasn't in the, lesser, the sisters need to get this information. So I said to them, you go talk to the sisters, find out if this is something that they want to do, that they'd be willing to do, because it doesn't make sense for me to have another class time after this, and no one shows up. So they went back and they came back and they said, yeah, well, she wants to come. Had another brother who paid for 6 sisters to come to the class. I open up the class, I start talking, I have their complete and total attention. They are getting what I'm saying. I look up, there's 60 some sisters in this class. They want to know. They want to know. They want you to bring it to them. Whatever you have to bring to them, they want to know. Get our egos out of this. We gotta move. This is a community in action. We got to bring our ego. That doesn't take away our responsibility to provide and to protect. But we know in our community, sisters is always also. They've also protected also. We've just assumed that as our primary role because that's the way we've always been. And we've always been that way because that was necessary. Not necessarily because we liked it. I don't like being the bad guy all the time. But somebody's got to fulfill that role if the community is going to survive. So in common sincerity, just some of the chapter titles: defensive parking, peeping in, immediacy, unloading, layers of bolts, all of these things within the house, the death of chivalry, dorms, making a grand entrance, insecurities, get out of the way. That's a special message to some people. Firearms, dress to move. Well, it's common sense stuff. It's common sense stuff. I really, of course, message to the warriors, but I also highly recommend common sense security for folks who really want to zero in on that, focus on that, and get their home, their space, their car, their travels, their movement more secure without having to put a ton of effort into it. Just requires thinking. I guess my assignment would be, in terms of message to the warriors, at first step, to read that chapter on nationalism and sovereignty. Especially read the definition on sovereignty. Which is on 17. When you sit to pen something, to write something, for those who write, sometimes it flows easy, sometimes it flows hard, but it flows. And part of your job is to make it so that it is reader friendly, that your points are being understood. So a lot of times when I've written something, I don't understand or realize the impact of it in terms of its clarity and importance to the reader. And this definition of sovereignty on page 17, I've become really pleased about it. The first thing that made me pleased about it, Mama Rumba really loved it. And with Mama Rumba, as hard as she is on statements that African people should engage, she's not easy to please. And she loved the statement because it covered in a nutshell how we need to think about being sovereign as a people, the direction that we need to move in order to be sovereign people. So there's also a discussion in here about a warrior's enemies, which we talked about, Urugu. We have, and I just talked about, a warrior's appearance, a warrior's words. Okay? We need to think about how we're saying what we're saying, who we're talking to, the level of respect or disrespect that is issued through the words. There's a reason why our ancestors were very careful with what came out of their mouths, because they understood that following Urugu has made us forget. And we've really taken it beyond what they have. In our genius, we've moved the cursing of each other beyond what they do. And a curse is a curse. We want to play with it, turn it into a nice word. No, the universe reads what it reads. The universe reads what it reads, and it's not concerned about your intent in that, or whether these endearment or not. A warrior's compliment, which is a chapter that I especially like, because we need to really work on finding, even if we can't find somebody right now, the idea that we are searching should be there. Okay, sometimes we separate from people for good reasons. Okay? What they say, if you get together, you marry somebody who is a slave, then they're gonna try to turn you into one. If you marry somebody, and a lot of things don't come out until that marriage wash. A lot of things don't come out because people are often trying to just impress other during that dating phase or what have you. And then all of a sudden you discover that the real part of that, you know, but there are things that we can look for. I think there are things that we should be compromising about, are ways that we should be treating each other as compliments. There are things that you don't want to do. And of course, I've written other books on complementarity, but this chapter is enough. If you think about it, I think a warrior's preparedness, which may be the most important chapter in there. You know, you got to know that you're at war and you have to be prepared in a particular way. I was brought up in a house where I was always told you speak to people in the language that they understand. Okay. A bully doesn't understand a conversation. A bully doesn't understand, you know, money, the little money that can trickle from you every day. A bully's going to understand getting lifted up off the ground and body slam. Bully's going to understand that because bullies are punks and they look for weak people. When they encounter somebody who challenges them, they go on to somebody else. So we have to be prepared in terms of how we think about things that will keep us safe. Warrior accountability. Nothing more important to a warrior, to an African warrior, than African people. Nothing more important to us. You know, people have asked Ina and I, well, how did you guys stay together for all of this time? And, you know, how'd you all that work? I said, well, you know, we have arguments and disagreements and get upset with each other just like any other complementary couple. I don't know a couple that doesn't have that. If they do, then somebody is hiding something and it's going to come out in an explosive way at some point in time. I said, but for us, that accountability was so important. We had this umbrella over us that guided our direction, that protected us. And that was saving African people, working for African people, gaining African sovereignty. That we agree on. So no matter what little nitpicky stuff we may be upset with each other over, we know that we're not going to fall apart because that umbrella is there. And the umbrella is more important than any of those nitpicky things. And those nitpicky things can get deep sometimes, but that umbrella is still always there. It's still always there. So, King Samir, I have yammered and have enjoyed it because I know that there are warriors there of good heart. You know, I know that they are there. I know that they're listening to you. I know, and it's not an ego thing. I know that they're listening to me, or I wouldn't be talking. And they need to be prepared. Every once in a while, we need to be motivated. We need to hear a good thing every once in a while that moves us in the direction. You know, so do I.
Yes.
And that, you know, that's something that warriors need to understand. Yeah. You know, sometimes the warriors, they want to put you up on that pedestal thing, but they have to understand that, you know, we do this work because of them. You know, they are the you say something and I see you doing the work and that, okay, let me get back busy. Let me stop whining. Let me go ahead and get this done. And I see a warrior who maybe just coming into it, trying to really figure out, and it's okay, let me get back to the grind and get this work done. Let me do this harder than I was doing it yesterday. Let me work harder at this. So the warrior pat themselves on the backs every once in a while. They need to, you know, do a little applause to themselves. This is, I don't know, in my 64 years, I've never seen or had to do something that was more difficult than fighting for African people. Next would become marriage, of course, but that's a whole nother realm. But this is the hardest thing, and it's worse when you're fighting for so many people who want to die, who don't want to win, and who put energy into trying to stop you. You know, we have a lot of babies. We have a lot of people who are not clear. We have a lot of people who come here for attention, but they're not really doing anything. a lot of good warriors. That we have a lot of good warriors. We have a lot of warriors who I wish I was that clear at their age. I wish that I had worked that hard or knew us that well at that age. But at the same time, we can't act like everybody on the front line or pretending to be on the front line is clear and ready. But said, attention is the new currency.
That's right.
So we have a lot of people coming here for attention. They see chaos going on, but they have no idea what they're doing. And when you start talking about work or actually doing something, say, oh, I didn't know this involved work. I just thought we were going to, dress up and play soldier for a little while. I didn't know we really had to do something. That's a whole different level.
And scream Black Power all day long.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. But this is work. This is hard work. It's a 24-hour job. I don't think I talk to who really does this work would disagree with the fact this is a 24-hour job. I tell folks who are compliments, you need to take a break. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, a week, once a year, once every 6 months if possible, to get away, because this is work. This is nonstop work. If you're not actually doing anything with your hands, if you're not actually counseling or working with people, then your mind is figuring out how to do something that you're doing better to help African people, to assist African people, to make yourself into a better warrior. It doesn't stop. And there are always going to be idiots. There's always going to be people who are extremely selfish, and when you don't act the way they want you to act, then you become the enemy to them.
Renegades.
That's frustrating. Yeah, that's frustrating. Of course, I have been at this for quite a while, so it doesn't affect me the way that it's going to affect somebody who is new. So right. I've learned to pick up on it as it shows its face and keep right on rolling. I can't allow that to, and I said before, we have, there are a lot of agents on the front line. There are a lot of agents in the community, and most of them are not being paid by the state. They're not receiving a check from some cop or from some government agency. Right. They're doing it because they want to do it. And as
just because.
I can remember she said, so some people cannot. Yeah, just because. So King Samir and all the Do the Knowledge family, I want to, I said, as all the Knowledge family, which of course includes Knowledge Born Allah. I definitely appreciate you. Both of you have been, major supporters of Akoben Institute and our work for a long time, long time, in many different ways for a long time. So this is family to me. But I appreciate being allowed to come on here and vent a little bit, vent in good company. And people need to, I see donations rolling across the bottom. People need to make, because without that, this doesn't survive. This doesn't survive. Do the Revolutionary Ties thing where every month, send $5, send $10, $20, send $1,000.
Man.
Something. Man. Because when it's gone, like we say, all we do then is we cry then. We need to support those organizations, those individuals who do this work for us now. And it is a sacrifice. I think, what could I have done that would have been played and wasted all my time for the last 30 years versus this? Okay, so this is a sacrifice from Urugu's world. I could have become a nice Uruguan, a good Negro, playing for all of these years, but I made a better choice. And that choice in this culture is a sacrifice, because everything is working against you. Things aren't working for you. I should say virtually everything is working against you. Virtually everything is working to make you quit. Virtually everything is working to make you become disgruntled. Versus everything is working to make you unable to complete your mission, to complete your work, to hold on to. These organizations need to be supported. We need to, not just because somebody's black, okay, we need to understand the politics of that person. We need to understand what they're about relative to the independence, empowerment, sovereignty of African people. So this Do the Knowledge Radio needs to be supported. It needs to be supported. Of course, we want more for them, but if all is $1, give that $1. Give what you can, everything that you can to help this to work. And it'll make you feel good because you know that you're also part of Do the Knowledge. You're gaining knowledge through this.
Let me tell y'all, I want y'all to understand how far $1 can go. And I want y'all to really thoroughly, and if I'm not mistaken, a few classes back, I actually showed y'all how important one little dead faggot peckerwood can be. Just one. Because that one dead faggot peckerwood can supply somebody who's thirsty as hell out on the street. That $1 could buy a gallon of water. Water is necessary to survive. You can only go 3 days without it. So $1 can save somebody's life, not just somebody's damn pocket. So we need to stop being complacent in that department as well. Listen, man, if you think for 1 minute that the white race, not just some individual crackers, any cracker who's at the helm of being a supervisor or a manager or your slave master, the white race is not going to fight you and feed you at the same damn time where you're saying you're fighting for African liberation. It's not going to happen. And if you think that's going to happen, you're insane as hell. So ain't no white man going to fight King Samir and feed King Samir. It's not going to happen. No cracker's going to fight Baba Baruti and feed Baba Baruti. No cracker's going to fight Knowledge Born Allah and feed Knowledge Born Allah. And we're insane as hell if we think that that's the new norm. We can talk all the shit about the white man and then go right behind him and say, Master, I need a loaf of bread. Yeah. The cracker will spit in your damn loaf of bread and spit on you. So we collectively, and this is, I would put this in the classification of the warrior's accountability. Because we have to have economics. I'm not sitting and waiting on no spook god. And I damn sure ain't going to beg no white man or woman. So I got to get it how I can get it. And that's making it happen. By any and all means necessary. But that don't mean I'm going to be out here begging. I'm a warrior. I don't make excuses. I fight and overcome all obstacles in my way. Because I understand that the fruit is the best part. I understand this clearly, definitively. So I gotta move as a fruit should move. Quick, fast, right down to the modern time. So I'm saying all this to say that we need some donations. We need some money. You give your white man, you give your money to Newport, you give your money to Marlboro, You give your money to crack. You give your money to the whores. You give your money to the white whores. You give your money to the faggots. You give your money to Old English. You give your money to Colt 45. You give your money to Heineken. I can keep going. I can keep going. But how about giving some money to your friendly neighborhood revolutionaries? We don't eat off of, I love you, brother. That ain't feeding me. Good work, brother. You the baby Khalid Muhammad, brother. Well, guess what? I can't eat off that. My queen can't walk around as beautiful as she is off of that. My babies can't eat off of that. So we got to get it how we can get it as warriors. But when you find a warrior begging to his enemy to give him food, clothing, and shelter, we're dealing with some insanity. We're dealing with some serious confusion. So I want y'all to take the time out and donate to the Akoben house. Get your copy of Message to the Warriors. Get your copy of Common Sense Security. Help Do the Knowledge Radio. Help King Samir with these survival classes. Teaching you for the last 6 damn years right here every Wednesday night. And don't ask for nothing. Don't ask for nothing. But take what we give you and manifest it. Take what we give you and put it to work. Train, train, train. So I'm honored once again to have Baba Baruti come and give us some motivation. I always say, who motivates the motivators? My motivator is gone in the physical. But his words keep me moving. Baba Baruti's words keep me moving. Khalid Muhammad's words keep me moving. Because somebody got to move. Because everybody's become complacent with a faggot on their arm. Everybody's become complacent with some skinny jeans and a white bitch on their arm. Talking about how African-centered we are. Oh, you shouldn't talk about the white race like that, brother. We have to be more intelligent than that. Shut your coon ass up. The white race is the devil. There will be nothing more and there will be nothing less. And if you're sitting with a devil on your arm, you should be lynched for race treason. Damn it, this is 2021. Huh? In the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, it teaches about what should be done to race traitors, what should be done to the treasonous ones. But Baba just talked about that fear. We don't even want to deal with the race traitors among our movement. We give them a pass. God damn it, we need to start making some public examples of these bootlickers. Like China deal with their bootlickers. Like Vietnam deal with their bootlickers. Huh? Like Nicaragua deal with their bootlickers. Like Winnie Mandela dealt with her bootlickers. Oh, y'all don't want to talk about that. Huh? Y'all don't want to talk about that African necktie. You so quick to run to Colombia and all these damn Latinos. Let's talk about some African neckties on the bootlickers. So when y'all ready to get to that degree, let me know. This is a militia that's not passive. And we're not playing that passive bullshit. Don't you see what white folks are doing today? Crackers are organized. No matter how unorganized they are, damn it, they're organized to the point they made a move on the White House. But look at you. You trying to get in the White House to wipe the damn toilet. Better yet, you don't even want to wipe the toilet. You want to lick the damn toilet. Crackers want this White House destroyed. You want to paint it. You want to make it a little bit more comfortable for black people. Silly you. But look, we're going to get up out of here, y'all. Baba, I love you. And we thank you.
Love you too.
For bringing that message on the advancement of warriorhood. And you know we're going to have you black again. As always.
Looking forward to it.
Yes,
looking
sir.
Looking forward to it.
So you have any last words?
Here, I'll be. Oh, folks need to prepare. Find every way possible to prepare. Everywhere that you are deficient, every area you're deficient in, find out how to correct that. We have to prepare. You can't wait until that. What they say, you don't sharpen your spear on the battlefield. You don't sharpen your shield on the battlefield. You prepare beforehand. We got to get prepared. So prepare yourself and prepare everyone who you love, who wants African sovereignty, because we don't have time for those games either. Be prepared. We need warrior. And I appreciate due to knowledge. I appreciate King Samir, who I always love being in the presence of. Knowledge born Allah. I see you have not disappeared. I know you haven't disappeared, but I wanted you to know that I appreciate you coordinating all this work and being here, period. You're always there. And I look forward to journey at sometime in the not too distant future. Be for Hodie.
Be for Hodie. We love you and we thank you, Baba. So, black people, there we have it. I told you we're going to start this year off proper, with a proper education, proper propaganda, because that's how you raise the mind of warriorhood. Proper propaganda. I know you're comfortable with the improper propaganda. I know you worship improper propaganda. But that's what this class is all about. The survive or die, Black survival class. So tune in every Wednesday, Black family, right here on Do the Knowledge Radio, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to always bring it to you raw and truthfully, whether you like it or not. So, to hell with your feelings. I love you. We love you more than you hate your black self. With that being said, Black Power, a BB for Hodie.